D.B. Cooper was an unidentified man who hijacked Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305, a Boeing 727 aircraft, in United States airspace on November 24, 1971. The man in the black raincoat appeared to be an ordinary businessman, paying cash for a one-way ticket on a Northwest Airlines flight from Portland to Seattle on the afternoon before Thanksgiving of 1971. He hesitated a little before giving his name, Dan Cooper, and the ticket agent would later have reason to recall he asked about the plane. "That's a 727, isn't it?" Just after takeoff, Cooper's seeming normalcy vanished. As a flight attendant passed his seat, he handed her a note and said quietly, "I have a bomb. Tell your captain I am taking charge of this plane." Looking down at his open attach case, she saw batteries, wires, and what looked like sticks of dynamite. The note stated the skyjackers' demand for $200,000 in cash and 4 parachutes, which airline officials in Seattle had ready when the plane landed there. Cooper released the 36 other passengers, and the plane took off again, this time heading toward Reno. Unbeknown to the skyjacker, 5 military aircraft and a helicopter were following at a discreet distance. Alone in the cabin, Cooper cut the cords from one parachute, leaving a scattering of snippets. He presumably used the lengths he cut to tie the 21-pound canvas bag of cash to his body. The plane had been airborne for 45 minutes and was at an altitude of 10,000 feet when an alarm light in the cockpit alerted the crew to a drop in cabin air pressure. Cooper had opened the rear door and jumped. For anyone planning to leap from an airliner, the 727 would be the least risky type, hence the question he'd asked the ticket agent. The plane has an undertail door and stairway that could serve as a platform, giving a person a chance of jumping free of the plane instead of colliding with its rear. Cooper took his bomb with him, if it was a bomb. The cylinders the flight attendant had seen in the attach case had been wrapped in red paper, whereas dynamite is customarily wrapped in beige paper. Cooper's explosives may have been only highway distress flares, but officials hadn't been willing to gamble on that. When Cooper bailed out, the 727 was over Washington's rugged, densely forested Cascade Mountains, several miles from the Oregon border. A sharp squall filled the darkness with rain and sleet, and no one aboard the aircraft following the 727 saw him jump. The wind was gusting to 70 miles per hour, and the air temperature was 19 degrees Fahrenheit when Cooper bailed out. These factors, combined with his rapid rate of fall, would have chilled him severely before he ever hit the ground. FBI agent Ralph Himmelsbach, who was aboard the helicopter and would handle the case from that night until he retired in 1981, doubted that Cooper could have survived the jump. "Expert parachutists have told me they wouldn't have jumped out of that plane for anything," Himmelsbach commented later. The rain and sleet would have hit Cooper like the stream from a fire hose, with enough force to blacken his eyes and strip off his shoes. If Cooper did manage to parachute to the ground, the agent said, "I'm sure he was hurting pretty bad when he got down. He got down." A serious injury, rough terrain, and terrible weather, according to Himmelsbach, have been a death sentence. Authorities mounted a gigantic manhunt in parts of Oregon, Washington, California, and Nevada, but heavy snows made the target areas impassable. After 5 days, the search was called off. Spring, the U.S. Army sent out 300 men to comb the area for 3 weeks. They found nothing. For years, fortune-hunting hikers have sought the skyjacker's remains and his stolen fortune with no success. Meanwhile, Cooper, early news reports got his assumed name wrong, and it stuck, became a sort of a folk hero. T-shirts picturing Cooper and his cash-stuffed bag parachuting down sold following the skyjacking, and the Cascades logging town of Ariel, Washington, instituted annual D.B. Cooper party that drew big crowds, even though the guest of honor never acknowledged repeated invitations. Over the years, the FBI checked out more than 900 suspects, but never managed to identify Cooper or determine his fate. The case remains the only unsolved state skyjacking. In February 1980, an 8-year turned up the first post-jump evidence of the skyjacker. Brian Ingram was digging on the sandy shore of the Columbia River near Portland, Oregon, when he came upon 3 bundles of decaying 20 bills, some $6,000. Their serial numbers matched those on the FBI's list of Cooper's bills. Ingram's find remains the only trace of the skyjacker, whose spectacular stunt is now legend. A T-shirt honoring him asks what everyone would like to know. Cooper, where are you? And there are other tantalizing puzzles. DB, who were you? And did you really think you could pull it off? Update. A microscopic metal fragment found on the tie of infamous plane hijacker D.B. Cooper could help reveal his true identity. Private investigator and researcher Eric Ulis is ringing in the new year with new breadcrumbs to share. I would not be surprised at all if 2024 was the year we figure out who this guy was, said Ulis. This particle is part stainless steel, part titanium. Ulis believes the itsy-bitsy discovery can be traced to a sophisticated metal fabric shop. According to Ulis, after his legendary disappearance 52 years ago, the man known as D.B. Cooper left behind a critical clue, a clip-on tie. After the money and the man vanished without a trace, this possession was spotted on Cooper's seat on the back row of the plane, 18E to be exact. Ulis says the tie was purchased at a JCPenney around Christmas 1964 for $1.49. The evidence is currently under federal lock and key, but scientists who examined it were able to pull more than 100,000 particles from it. He applied these sticky stubs. They're like little carbon circles that he could apply to portions of the tie, and then when you pull them off, you're pulling off some of the particles from the tie, explained Ulis. You apply modern, state-of-the-art technology to it, things they didn't have back 1971 when this occurred. It tells a story. 18 months ago, Ulis used U.S. patents to trace 3 of these fragments from the same very tie to a specific plant in Pennsylvania, Crucible Steel. Headquartered in the suburbs of Pittsburgh, a significant subcontractor all throughout the 1960s, said Ulis. It supplied the lion's share of titanium and stainless steel for Boeing's aircraft. Ulis claims evidence points to Cooper having in-depth knowledge of the 727 he hijacked and of the Seattle area. Workers at Crucible Steel were known to travel and visit their contractor, Boeing. This is also the time, 1971, when Boeing had this significant downturn, the Big Depression, with "the last person leaving Seattle, please turn out the lights" billboard sign, said Ulis. It's reasonable to deduce that D.B. Cooper may well have been part of that downturn. Ulis admits his findings are not yet concrete. He's not crossing any suspects off the list. However, he believes from what he's seen, all roads lead to titanium research engineer Vince Peterson from Pittsburgh. Seen side by side with an artist's rendering of Cooper, Peterson passed away in 2002. I can put him in Seattle. I can put him at Boeing, said Ulis. He's a compelling person of interest. He's definitely someone I'm going to continue to dig into.